Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel and the Always Smiling Faces podcast. Almost on time tonight. Almost. Believe it or not, we're all sat here about 3 minutes before quarter two. Then Decker decided to go outside for a can.
Yeah, I apologize. I need to top up.
And boys, we've had some time to calm down over the weekend's results, which haven't really gone in our favour other than the Fulham one. But we'll get on everything soon enough within the next hour. So first of all, how are you all doing? Everybody well? Decker?
I'm absolutely brilliant, mate. I'm always great. Always great. It's the only way you should be.
Bestie, you good?
I'm all right, aye.
Mark?
That was a bit...
Knee blisters today?
It's not the same one. It's not a blister as much as just like a hole in my foot.
Right, okay. So there's a hole in your foot?
Well, it's a blister. I mean, my shoes give us a blister, and then that's obviously the blister's burst straight away. And that's what's given us a hole in my foot. It's been 2 weeks now, and it's just a scab on my heel now. But it's tender. It's tender, boys. I can it.
1 minute in, we're talking about Bestie's burst blisters. Can it? Honestly, Best, you don't get this anywhere else.
Well, if we're on that tack, I've also got a hole in my finger. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I can, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I had a wart there for about 20 years, and I used like this acidy stuff to get it off last week, and it's worked. But I've just got a hole in my hand now as well, so I'm kind of like like a straw. If you suck your finger, and I put my foot in water.
Amazing.
He hasn't got a wart in his finger anymore, but he can touch the bone in there.
Excuse me.
Right, let's get down to business. I'm pretty sure that
I'm all right as well, thanks, Chris.
I've just said that and you ignored us.
I know, but I didn't get a chance to answer.
All right, okay. Well, it makes a change.
Too concerned about Bestie and his foot.
Are you, Mark? Are you well?
I'm well. I must say, I'm even better for seeing that lovely new intro that we've got and the lovely new background, which we had at the weekend as well. But it's nice to see it live on a Q&A, isn't it? New music, new intro, new background.
The music's taken me something to get used to, like, I'm not going to lie.
It's taken me a little bit as well, because if you notice, I pressed the video, then I stopped the video, then I started again, because I don't know what's actually happening there.
You didn't think it was the right thing, did you?
That's twice. The 2 times I've had to use it, I've done both times, so God knows what I'm doing there. But yeah, as Mark said, we do have a new layout. We've got new backgrounds. We don't have a new logo, but it has been revamped on the Always Smiling Faces podcast. And obviously, you would have noticed that the Gallowgateshots logo has all been changed and rebranded too. And that is for something which I know I said this on the last one. We're hoping to announce something soon. Hopefully, very soon in the next 24 hours. But are you all right, Bestie?
I'm seeing if I can grab the corner of the star, but it's really hard to do because I'm on the right.
I thought he was just going. It's this close.
So did I first. That's what I thought at first.
I think
that's what it is there. That's it. It's really hard to do that. Really hard.
Right. So let's get down to it. So obviously, we're on the back of that 1-1 draw, the Villa, a game which was. This is what I want to talk about. So it was a game which was touted as a must-win. And I think must win has been the sentence and the accumulation of words which has been used the most over the last week. Or
be careful with the word accumulation, Chris.
Accumulation, yeah. Accumulation. But we'll get on to accumulation points later as well, because that's what it's all about, remember? So before kickoff, was it a must win? Or was it only after kickoff? After full time, where Bruce decided that game wasn't a must win? Start with you, Bessie, because you shook your head first.
I don't think it was a must-win. No, I think it's when you look at the last 3 games, Wolves, Villa, and that other team that they played. Disappointed West Brom. It's hard, isn't it? Because Wolves have been a reasonable team over the past couple of years. Had a rough season so far. West Brom were crap. But Allardyce's manager playing at the Hawthorns. I'm not making excuses here or kind of out like that. The 3 games were all awful, all terrible. But Villa, again, I don't buy into the must-win thing yet. I think the games that you must win, these are games that if you win, the games later become slightly less important. We're getting towards a point now, because Brighton won on Sunday, that game becomes massive next weekend. That's more of a must-win than the Villa one. The Villa one would be nice to have won. But I don't mind. Villa aren't in the relegation shake-up either. If we are beating teams that are around with, if we can beat Brighton, we've got Sheffield United coming up. I think we've got Burnley as well, haven't we?
Yeah.
In the next few weeks.
I think so, yeah.
Beating the teams around with is far more important than beating the teams mid-table higher than that. So if you had to pick one game to win, it'll be, well, because we haven't won any others, it'll be Brighton.
It makes
yeah, true.
It makes sense what you're saying, Bestie, but the point which you really have to touch on is, yes, we do have to win those games with the teams around us, but you're also for hoping those not to pick up other points from other teams, which is kind of what they're doing.
Yeah, a lot of them are. I mean, Fulham have had a pretty decent run of late. Brighton won yesterday. Even there was a point at which West Brom looked as if they could possibly catch up, and maybe they will. Sheffield United have kind of sacked Chris Wilder and don't look any better because of it. They got beat 5-0 off Leicester, wasn't it, the other day?
Yeah.
So, I don't buy into it being must-win games just yet. But, yeah, with every game that we don't win, the games become more important. And as I say, we've got teams to play around with. I do think we'll get relegated, by the by. But I think that the games that we'll play against, as I say, Fulham, Sheffield United, Brighton are the ones that are Burnley are the ones that will must win. Fulham maybe not, because that's last game of the season and they'll probably be like 10th by then. So
big challenge for you by then. Take what's your thoughts on the must win situation, because it was mentioned in our WhatsApp group over the last couple of days about this scenario that we'll find ourselves in, where so far this season we've played about 20 must win games and won none of them. How many must win games we've got left?
I agree with Bestie, and I think I did in the group at the time that I think the term must win gets used all the time. I go back to last season. I remember there was a game we had, I think it was the third or fourth game, even under Rafa. I remember, God, how many minutes? 7 minutes, I mentioned him. I remember, I think we played Huddersfield away and so much, this is a must win. And I'm like, whoa, hang on. Like, it's just not. Like, it isn't. However, there's certain games that I feel can be must win for confidence within the group, within the team themselves. But in terms of must win for points, I mean, there's still 9 games to go. So it's clearly not must win, because must win to me is a bit like when we played West Ham last game of the season, you remember? And we won. Yeah. That is must win. You've got to win that game to stay in the division. So them are must wins. But I agree with the sentiment that we're running out of time and we're running out of, not free hits, that's totally the wrong phrase, but I mean, we're running out of games where it's, there's another one gone, but we've got 9 to go, we've got 8 to go, we've got 7 to go, and all of a sudden you start ticking down really, really quickly. I feel like the Brighton game is as must win as a game can be. That's how I feel. That game feels like that. It really does.
Just think, I'll come to you, Mark. Do you think a lot of that lies on the weekend's game against Brighton? And we know how big that is now. Do you think a lot of that depends on what happens on Friday night, where you've got Fulham v Leeds? If Fulham pick up a result there, that does turn that game. That means we're chasing then, and it's a position where we haven't been in so far. We could 100%. Be in the relegation zone, looking to crawl back out.
Yeah, and I think that is definitely a must-win game, and I get the thing around it's not a must-win until you're going to be behind on points. Ironically, the must-win game that, like I said, we didn't actually in the end need to win it because other results went our way.
Yeah. But we didn't know that going into the game.
No. But you look at that game and think we have to win that one, because if we don't, then that means Brighton then move away from us. That makes us getting out of it much, much more difficult than we are. So, yes, if you don't win it, points-wise, we're not down. So when you're looking at that from that point of view, it's not win. But in the overall scheme of things, from confidence, as Decker says, from keeping them in touch with looking at the Fulham game, as you've just mentioned, Chris, it all points to, if we don't take points from that game, then we are massively, massively in the shit. So if you're not looking at it as a must-win game, it's a very, very big, big game for us to be going into, and we've got to approach it right.
And like I said, I'll come to you, Bestie. Like I said there, that it could be the first time this season where we're looking down the barrel here in the relegation zone, possibly come our next game, where you said there that we and you are expecting us to get relegated. As soon as we drop into that relegation zone, do you think that's our fate sealed?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, as Decker said, there's still 9 games left for us. I mean, I think we've got a game in hand on Fulham, so that'll be 2 games in hand.
Yeah.
That'll be 2 games in hand by the time we're coming to play Brighton because they play first against Leeds. But yeah, I'm not. I don't think that when we're going to the bottom 3, there's no chance to come back out and that's it. That they're done for. I think there's enough games that we've got to play against the teams in the relegation kind of mix up, and also you look at all the teams down there have got pretty difficult run-ins. That from the best of me recollection. I mean, we've still got Liverpool, Tottenham to play. We've got a few more that escape us at the minute.
Man City, I think, as well, haven't we?
Man City might be one day, Mark Guy. So I don't think it's necessarily a case of as soon as we hit the 18th, that's it, we're down. There's still a couple of months to go yet. I just can't see Newcastle under Bruce kind of working out how to score goals. I mean, I think I made the point on Friday night that it was Lascelles that scored the goals, and again he scored the one against Wolves as well. We didn't score against West Brom, so that's 3 games now we're getting for a month where it's just been defenders scoring goals, and that's how it started under Bruce. I don't think. Well, let's be frank. I think he's a rotten manager. I don't think he's a good manager. I don't think he knows how to even now what his best team is. And I think we will take it down, if not this season. If he stays and we stay up this season, then we'll finish 20th next season. I think. But yeah, there's a lot of football to play. I just don't think we'll be good enough in the long run to get out of it properly. I think you can see Brighton beat Southampton and looked pretty good doing it yesterday. Fulham started playing well. Burnley picked up a result at the weekend as well. They beat
brilliant. Everton.
Everton. They beat 2-1. Everton seem to lose the bottom 4 teams just constantly. Like we beat them, they beat them. Fulham beat them the other week as well, I think. So yeah, I see the other teams picking up points where we don't, basically.
Have you ever noticed that as well? Sorry to interrupt there, but have you ever noticed that when we get a really good result, like I'll go back to that Everton game, I thought was a tremendous result. I thought we played really, really well. Every time we get what I feel is a good result, the same team seems to lose against everybody else anyway. Like as you've met, Burnley beat them, someone else, Fulham beat them not so long after we beat them, and a game that I think is really, really a good win for us actually turns out to be, well, actually everyone else is beating them as well. Like it's strange that, but it happens quite often. I think that, like, for us. Yeah,
you're probably right. And people that are watching, I do want to say we will turn this into a question answer. So if you do want to start firing questions across, then I'll come to them as we can. Bessie mentioned there that we don't look like winning. We don't look like at scoring goals, and it looks like Bruce can't set the team up to score goals, which takes us right back to that starting lineup against Villa. And I'll come to you, Digger. We're playing this front 3 system, and Dwight Gale's on the left-hand side. Any Newcastle fan watching knows that Dwight Gale does not play on the left-hand side. If you're going to put him anywhere, you're going to put him through the middle, not in what you class as a winger type role on that side. And we saw in times during that game, and we saw how well in the Championship Shelvey and Dwight Gale linked up between each other, with Shelvey pinging those balls over the top for Gale to run onto. At what point does Steve Bruce and the coaching staff, and I mentioned them all here, every single one of them, even Graham Jones, which everybody managed to get excited about over the first couple of games. Surely someone has to look at this thing thinking, hang on a second, like why is Dwight on the left?
Exactly. I mean, listen. I mean, I'll go back to the game I've just mentioned there, the Everton game. It was a success. You can't deny that. It worked very, very well. But we had the personnel that makes that formation work. I mean, in fairness, you've got Almiron playing this, what could you call it, false 9, number 10 role, whatever it is. It suits him down to the ground, that particular role. Wilson, we're lucky enough, can play this sort of right-hand side forward, and still become a dangerous player for centrally. And this is where I get really annoyed, and I mentioned this, I think, straight after the last game there against Villa, is, listen, you've got a plan, right, and you set up for the players that you've got, and I understand that. But when them 3 players get injured, you have to look at it and go, right, is Gale capable of playing left wing? Probably not. Is Fraser capable of playing as a central striker or a false 9? Probably not. So let's play them. It's bad enough as it is losing them players, but you're putting in reserve players who you don't think are good enough to start a normal game, and you're then asking them to play out of position. It beggars belief to me how you think that's good. It beggars
especially
belief,
they were basically playing in each other's position as well, which made it even more ridiculous.
Yeah, if Fraser wasn't a left winger, just hide that one out there, then all right, well, maybe he's trying to really just come up with something. But when you've actually got players on the field that are capable of playing in their natural position, but you're choosing not to, I just haven't got a clue what's going on. I really don't. And as I said the year before, after the Villa game he had said that he didn't go with Carroll and Gale or whatever it was because it would change the shape of what we've been working on. But you've had 10 days here, maybe longer, to change the shape. And as I mentioned at that time, and I'll say it again, good managers change formation and shape in game. In game can change tactics. We can't change it within 10 days. So what chance have you got?
Mark,
they changed their. I was going to say they changed their formation at least 3 times that I can think of during that game, and it took us until the 80th minute, something like that, to make the change and go with bring Murphy on and get to there. Whereas they brought on a substitute, then brought on a couple together, and it just goes to show you that you've got to adapt to what's on the pitch and in front of you, and if something's not working, you make changes, you tweak it. He said himself he played with them the way that he had for an hour, and then he changed it.
It was just
could see
just before the 60th minute where he changed it.
We could see well before the 60th minute it wasn't working. We picked up on it straight away, and we're talking about it during the game. So it's just he's so slow to react to anything that happens on the pitch in front of him. We'll sit there talking about it for ages. People are on Twitter, people are on social media talking about exactly the same things, and it either doesn't change or it changes too late.
I'd love to know what the players are thinking, by the way. I'd love to know what Gale and Fraser think. I mean, because the rest of the team's probably in the right position. Let's say that, right? But there's 2 players that are glaringly obvious to me that are out of position. And I would love to know what Gale thinks when he looks at the team sheet and goes, left wing, Gaffer? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Bessie, I'll come to you. And this comes from a manager, and I will show it on screen here because it is Neil who sends it in. Bruce said many times that he doesn't do tactics. I think when we obviously saw those quotes, I know they've been dug up from the past, way back, but I think we all laughed that off, thinking, that's obviously just been taken out of context and things like that. But I think it's shown pretty evident right now that he doesn't do them. He literally sets up at the start of the game, and if something goes wrong, then there's no backup. There's no way out of that. It's either that way or nothing at all. Yeah,
that's something that that quote was from an interview we did at Sunderland with from the Guardian, Louise Taylor. So I mean that's a decade old, at least that quote. And if you asked fans I'm sure a lot of Hull fans would agree, Villa fans certainly would agree. Sheffield Wednesday didn't really get a great deal of time to kind of assess him as a manager, I suppose, but I would suspect that a lot of them would agree as well. He doesn't do tactics at all, really. He kind of I saw a little clip from an Under the Cosh podcast this weekend. I don't know if you saw it. Was an ex-Birmingham striker. I forget the bloke's name now, so you'll not be watching, but apologies anyway. Where he said basically what we've said about Bruce, where he kind of brings strikers on because he thinks strikers score goals without any thought to how strikers score goals or get in the right positions. Steve Bruce seems to think if you've got 4 strikers on the pitch, you're 4 times likely to score a goal.
Yeah.
You put a striker in goal, well, he might score a goal. He's a striker. Where
ironically, he had a striker on the pitch and he didn't play him in a forward position at the weekend.
It is but yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, when you look at, I'm going to do it 12 minutes later than Decker did, but when Benitez was there, I mean, we all met him, and I went to see him just before Rowan Vine. It was Martin. Thank you. You're right. It was just before we played Derby in the Championship. I met Rafa and had a dix about it. Cheers, Laura. Around the training ground, and he had this dossier, and we obviously couldn't read it because but you could see this kind of laminated kind of portfolio on Derby, and it was taken from TV captures of when they've played a game. And it was, can you remember the one that came out about Newcastle when I think Mourinho was at Chelsea? And it was this thing, and this is like 15, 20 years ago now, and it was like, you've got to attack Robbie Elliott. Robbie Elliott was a weak link.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And this was a similar kind of thing about Derby, but obviously I didn't get to read it, but you just kind of saw it and I thought, oh, that's interesting. And Benitez has a reputation of being a bit kind of impersonable, and he wants you to kind of play in this really calculated way. He wants you to kind of you've got like a chess piece. You've got to do this when that happens. You've got to, if he moves that way, you've got to move this way, and there's not much room for interpretation. Whereas you look at Bruce, I think is more of a kind of a proper football man, as they say, where he wants you to go out and roll your sleeves up and all these cliches that the gloves are off.
Graft the result out.
Yeah, graft the result out, and then you can have a good bag of chips on the bus on the way home, a couple of cans, And Bruce, I mean, maybe I'm doing him a disservice there, but I don't think I am. I think that's very much his kind of school of management. It is what Keegan did. It's what Keegan did. It was okay 25 years ago, 30 years ago. But in 2021, it's not how a Premier League manager has to manage. You've got to manage your players so kind of with that attention to detail, because otherwise you just get run over.
You've got to micromanage them.
Yeah, absolutely. Aye.
There was a Villa player. People said it was Jack Grealish. It wasn't Jack Grealish, but it was someone at the club at that time said that Bruce was like turning up at training and was just putting a ball in the middle of the pitch and saying, right, let's play 5-a-side or 11-a-side today, lads. Like, there was no tactical meeting, there was no tactical approach. And I was listening to Steven Gerrard on Robbie Fowler's podcast. I don't think any of you would have watched it, but I did. And the question obviously gets thrown to him, who's the best manager that you've worked with? And he said Rafa. He said Rafa in terms of tactical. He says he just wants to. He grabs you to one side all the time, telling you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. And he says it can be tedious, it can be, but he says it's what you need to get to that next level. And he says, like, it was a certain day of the week. He knew it was a certain day of the week. He says would go into training and know, it's Thursday, for example. This is Rafa's day. And he said Rafa would not be involved in every single coaching session, but you knew when Rafa said tomorrow it's my day, you knew that day was going to be the most important day of the week. That's what he said, and I was like, wow, that's an amazing statement.
I don't know if Rafa did this with you lads, but it was me, Michael Martin, friend of the podcast, obviously, and Taylor all went together. And Rafa's saying, "Do you know how to defend a corner?" And we're going, "Well, no, not really. Like, obviously not to the degree that you would do." So he stands up, moves chairs around, moves office furniture around. Right, when you defend the corner, you do this, and it was just so like you just think like I think Zola Martin was. Everyone goes, Zola Martin's all the crap. But he was going, right, you put your best head of the ball at the back post because he's the one who's going to get. Then you get, if you're defending, you put your best head of the ball in the middle because he's got a better chance. But he's literally grabbing us and moving us around to tell how to defend a corner. And it was like, it's not just.
Took some effort to move you around, mate.
I was bigger at the time. Oh no, I wasn't. I was about this way because I'm kind of. But I didn't have those many feet at the time, like so I was aerodynamic. But it was that level of kind of, even then in like that 5-minute period, that level of detail where you think you play. I mean, the level of football we've all played. I know that I was a decent player back in the day before whatever happened. With injuries, want to take garlic bread specials happened.
Yeah.
Garlic bread special in the 10-minute preview. Basically, it was if you're the tallest bloke. I played a little bit of defence when I played in the league. I'm awful in the air. I'm 6'5". I'm shocking in the air. I'm a coward. So, but because I'm so tall, right, best of you go and mark me a big lad, and that's literally what it was. And from that to what Benitez was, I think Bruce lies probably nearer to that side of things than saying, right, you've got to mark this area because you do that, and he's good in the air, so you've got to do. And it was quite eye opening, and that was in like a minute. That was kind of to see how he did it.
I think as well. I think what we all have to remember: a coach has been brought in to help Steve Bruce tactically or whatever it is. And that, I think that tells the biggest story, right? That he's needing help from the outside to be better tactically or whatever it may be. And I think that's a huge concern. I think it just kind of sums up what we already know, that he's not good enough either try to draft someone in to help him, which is he's out of his depth, right? That's just what it is.
It's like getting your probation at work extended, isn't it? A bit like it's, oh God, I'm not very good at this.
A little bit it is, yeah. No. It is a little bit, yeah. And I think, I mean, I know we've all, listen, we could go all night and slag him, right? Everyone in the comments could go all night and slag him. I think the other point to make here is we don't want to have to do that. Like, we don't want to sit here for an hour or however long we go and just sit and slag him off. Christ, I wish everything was rosy and I wish we were playing good football and we were all wrong. Our original opinions of Steve Bruce was wrong. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, we're not. We weren't wrong.
And I think I'll come to you, Mark. I think we have to remember when Danny Rose came, he said he was shocked with the likes of the training method. It was like holiday camp, I think he referred to it as. That just a holiday camp. Come on, like that speaks volumes.
Yeah, I guess anybody that's watched the Spurs documentary will have seen, how Jose goes about their training and stuff like that. So coming from that into Newcastle to be faced with Steve Bruce and his tactics and training is going to be night and day for any player. But it's just worrying that when you speak to any fan of any other club that he's been at, any of the players that he's been a manager of, they all talk about that kind of way where he just, yes, he might be a good man manager and stuff like that, but he just doesn't know how to coach them, to get them playing in the correct way. This is the thing, though, Mark.
I'll interrupt you here. This is what we hear. We hear that Steve Bruce is a great man manager. What we've seen over the last couple of weeks, it's complete polar opposite. We're throwing players under the bus. And we're talking about 2 players in a week, mate, probably more, because you're looking at obviously the way the whole Darlow incident was handled. Darlow found that he wasn't going to be starting in the press, and then obviously he goes and throws Matt Ritchie under the bus. That then doesn't want to confront that scenario there and then. He would rather dwell on it for 3 days and let Matt Ritchie get himself wound up. And if you're going to choose one player or avoid one player to wind themselves up over a weekend, it's going to be Matt Ritchie. So is he a great man manager? Shelby will probably have you believe that. But
he's not showing much of it, is he? At the minute, like as you say, with all of the excuses that he's coming out, all of the finger pointing towards players. I mean, I think this weekend's game was the only time in recent history that I can't remember him mentioning certain players and not doing something right. He talked about the fact that it was a fluke goal that were conceded and stuff like that, and that was showed character to get back into it. But he didn't finger point for any of the mistakes like he has, as you just mentioned. Even when in the last game when we got the draw, he talked about the fact that Joe had missed chances and stuff like that, and that we've got to take them and stuff like that. So even when he's trying to be positive about things, he's still pointing fingers.
I think he might have actually pointed his finger at Dubravka as well for the goal that were conceded, which he should have done better at, but he went and called him out in the press as well straight after the game. So there was a number of players during that one game, all that build up to that one game, and obviously the aftermath, which he's called out. Jack, I could see you itching there.
It was not, I think, important. I just had a question for you, really, in regards to your thoughts on this. I agree totally with the man management comment that loads of people say he's a good man manager and I think we all sort of are on the fence with that one, maybe. Do you think, though, that the players are still playing for him? Do you think? Because I do actually, I don't think they've necessarily thrown the towel in, which I am surprised at, considering the media comments he makes and things like that. I still feel that they're pulling for the shirt, which just surprises.
I think that speaks volumes. I think, yes, they may be pulling for the shirt and playing for the badge on the front of the shirt, mate. But I think it's clear to see that I don't think there's much respect between players, manager and coach at the moment. And I think as a fan base, we can see that and everything which has happened. When the club and the team should be pulling together to get ourselves out of this scrap, it looks like the polar opposite compared to the teams around
it does. I feel like under, let's say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a manager that they weren't playing under. I'm trying to think. I mean, McLaren perhaps, I don't know. Like, so that Villa game, I just feel that we wouldn't have scored in the last minute. I think we're just getting to be 2 or 3 by that stage. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But
no, I think it's a good point that you made. I think there's a certain amount of the players that have a desire not to want to go down, and I don't think it's for Bruce. I think it's for the fans more than anything, because of the relationship that they've got with us and the fact that when we have been in the ground and stuff like that,
their professional pride.
Yeah, that's the other thing of having that. They don't want a relegation on their CV to go down like that. So yeah, for some of them it would be another one. But I don't know. I don't get. There's just been too many comments and stuff like that around from players, like senior players as well, around that type of thing, where they're not getting almost, they're not back. It's not that they're not saying they're back in the Steve Bruce, but they're not coming out with those positive reinforcement of him and believing in him and stuff like that. They're more talking about the way of they'll get out of it, they're committed to getting out of it and stuff like that. So it's they're talking about themselves as players, as a group, rather than kind of having belief in that Steve Bruce is the man to help them get out of it.
Yeah. I've got a question for you, Bestie.
Yeah.
It's obviously on the back of that one, but Nielsen's question into is relegation a real issue to the players when they'll still be paid the same wages in the Premier League? As in the Premier League. There's rumours last week that there aren't many relegation clauses in these player contracts where if we do get relegated, then their wages stay exactly the same. They don't take any cuts. That's a huge concern for a club who's, well, like every single club, there's been huge financial burdens over the last 12 months, probably longer now. That's a huge concern for any team that gets relegated on top of everything else that goes with it.
It's just so, I mean, it's happened before. I'm sure when we went down, maybe even both times we've gone down, actually. I'm sure we've had loads of players that haven't had that relegation clause. So, like, and when you think of the players we've had in the Championship, both times that have been around from the previous season, more so the first time around when you had like Nolan, Colaccini, Enrique, Gutierrez, Damien Duff to start with. Obviously went to Fulham early in the season, but yeah, I don't think it's concerned. Well, in the short term, it might not be a concern for the players. If we get relegated and we've still got the same player, if we have exactly the same playing staff, hypothetically, this time next year, then the club will probably be bust, because we wouldn't have the TV money coming in, or Mike Ashley's got to put another however many tens of millions in because to cover the wages. There's only a finite, as well run in inverted commas financially we are, balance sheet champions and all that. That in the Championship won't go very far, but I think we'd find out very quickly that we'll be in trouble. So yeah, I think there'll be, and the problem with that is if you get relegated, if you've got, like, let's, for argument's sake, Miggy on 60 grand a week, out the year, that might be miles out, but if that's the figure, you can't afford to pay that in the Championship, so you need to sell him. And if you need to sell somebody, then you've got to accept a lower bid, a lower offer, beg pardon. It could be a big problem. Sorry,
apologise. I did that again. Sorry.
I was going to say, though, I nearly did it at Mark earlier when he's on about players having relegations on the CV. If I was a footballer, I wouldn't put it on there. Like, when I'm writing my CV out for a new job, I don't put, like, when my flexi was bad or like that. We'll not mention that.
Steve Bruce won't have anything on his CV, then, will he? He'll just be blank.
It'll be I think promotions to the.
Yeah, I won the cup. I got Hull to the cup final. That'll be about it. That's his CV, and that's the end of it.
I think that's a tough one. This is just me. I'm not playing devil's advocate here at all, but I just look at it sometimes how I see things, and I think to be able to get St. Maxim to sign a new contract, to be able to get Wilson to join, and not
really
in like what? Sorry.
You think you'd get them to sign a new contract?
No, he's talking about what's happened, man.
No, I'm saying what's difficult. What? Sorry, no. Like, to say to the player, oh, by the way, you have to have a relegation clause in there. They might say no to that. They might say no, like, you know what I mean? That's me wage, and it's you're in this sort of tug of war, and you're like, well, shit, like we can't have it in, but if we don't, then he can go. So, and also I'm always about the mentality and the culture of a football club, and I think it's so important. And I just feel like, and again, I could be wrong here, but having that opinion, you're sitting down with every single of your top players going, we'll put this relegation clause in case we get relegated. I just feel like as a club, you need to move away from that and have the culture of we're not going to go down, and we're signing you for 5 years because we believe we're going to go places. And the token of that is, I don't believe St. Maximum would say, oh yeah, I'll agree to that, like, drop me wages 50% if we go down. Like, I just can't imagine big players or good players saying that. Yeah. That's just my opinion anyway.
It's a big risk, though. I think if you're doing that, I think you've got a point at that. I think St. Maximan, or if you do put that in his contract for next year, then you're paying him more now to almost offset it. The problem is the short-termism in that, in appointing someone as head coach who is not a Premier League standard manager, in my opinion, seldom been one. It's all well and good being a Premier League club in as far as playing contracts are concerned, but if you're not going to do the things behind the scenes, we all have talked before about them having like ice baths in wheelie bins and paddling pools and whatever it was. The infrastructure is not there, and that goes as far as the staff, the training ground, the management. It's just we're not a Premier League standard football club at the minute.
And something else I'll add on that one. I honestly feel like it's the bad eggs that would stay. I feel like St. Wilson, Almiron, they'll just go anyway. They'll just because they want to play at the top level.
Absolutely.
It's the bad eggs that would hang around and go, "Mint, I'm getting paid, X, and I'll just stay." And that's the problem you've got. Like, to be fair,
as we talked about at half time the other day as well. It's a World Cup year next year, so if we go down and you've got players, I mean, St. Maximin's not in the France lineup was he at the minute, but like even if I didn't get the World Cup, Jeff Hendricks would be going, "Well, I want to be in the Premier League." I mean, that might not be the worst thing, to be honest with you.
Get rid of it, please now.
Relegate us now.
But like Northern Ireland, you've got Jamal Lewis, you've got
Kieran Clark
with Ireland,
Fraser with Scotland.
Callum Wilson's being
he's away. He would be gone, wouldn't he? Yeah, there are certain players we know would be gone.
Well, there has been a question in.
That's why I was going to say,
but I'll come to you more. One of the question in is out of our starting 11. Which players would you imagine do a runner if we were to get relegated? I think it's too much of an open question, that one. But let's say, obviously, we spoke about the international players there.
Who would stay?
Who would stay? Yeah. But we'll go under the same premises as when we got relegated under, when McLaren basically took it down. I know Rafa took over, but there was Wijnaldum, Sissoko, and
Townsend.
Who else? Townsend.
Janmaat as well, yeah.
Janmaat you could put in there. But I'd say if you're going to pick the 3 players, 4 players, we'll say, out of the team, who would be the first ones out the door? Who's going to bring you the most money in as a football club? I'll start with you, Mark. I think I've got my 4 in mind.
A split up between Wilson and Saint, who's going to bring in the biggest transfer fee. They'll definitely be out. Miggy will be away, and Dubravka will be away.
My 4. Anybody got anything in addition to that?
It's hard to say, isn't it? I mean, you look at the team that was in the Championship. Fortunately, well, it's not fortunately because that's why we're in the situation we're in. But a lot of the playing squad now is the same as that was in the Championship. So you've got Kieran Clark, Paul Dummett, John Joe Shelby, Isaac Hayden, who I think they would probably stay, because you wouldn't say that any of them are much better than they were in the Championship. I mean, Shelby's, well, I'm not going to get that, but
Hayden might get a move. Like I would have thought.
I think Hayden's a better player now, but he still isn't like you don't look at Newcastle's team and say like Isaac Hayden.
You could still see him being in a relegation fight next season in the team.
Yeah, I think he's a middling type of Premier League player. I like Isaac Hayden a lot. I really do like him, but I don't think you're going to get him going to like Liverpool or Man United.
No, he's not going to break the tops, but I could see a Premier League team taking him. Like
maybe in Norwich, if they are going to come because they're 10 points clear now, someone like that. Someone who's going to be in the battle at the bottom, but need that kind of player. But
it's too far from London.
Dega, you got any thoughts on anybody else?
No, I agree with the 4 that you've said, and it just makes us like, I don't want to sound too dramatic here, but it kind of breaks my heart to think that you've got a player like Callum Wilson, you've got St. Maximum, you've got Almiron, and there's an opportunity here we could lose these players. And like, let's say we went down, right? Okay, which do you know what it is? For the first time ever, I'm swaying towards Bessie's opinion of I think probably we will. So let's say we lose them, right? And let's say Bruce didn't stay in charge, and let's say we did come back up, right? I don't think we will, but let's say we did. I will always have that feeling in the back of my mind that like we had St. Maximum, we had Almiron. Like I don't think we'll get that caliber of player again, like for years.
Those are the players that most clubs will look at and think, right, we brought these in, let's start building a team around them right now. Yeah. And in our case, it hasn't been that for a long time. I couldn't even tell you the last time we brought this caliber of players in to advance the team and progress as a football club, because it always looks like the same way we do okay, we start well, and towards the end of the season, it's a case where shit, these are going to be leaving.
Yeah, but we all thought like we all thought when we signed, we all thought we had a decent summer window, and we were all quite excited. We thought, God, like in terms of the playing staff we've got, it's probably the best we've had for God knows how long. And I'm going to say it again, 39 minutes in, Rafa, we had Yoselu and Atsu and people like that. You know what I mean? Like, and we finished 10th, 11th, or whatever it may have been. And then you fast forward a couple of years and you think, and this is not me sticking up for Ashley at all. I'm just saying, man for man, staff wise, as players, you look at the team and you think, God, like we've really enhanced that. You know what I mean? Saying it's such an improvement on Atsu, right? And you bring in Fraser and etc. etc. And I really felt that it was the best squad of players we've had in years. And then look where we are, fourth bottom, probably going to go down.
I'll come to you, Mark. I think we're at a point once again where you look under that season where we're playing in Europe, and the only player we brought in was two players. There's Big Ramona and Vernonita, I think, that were brought in.
Yeah.
It seems like once again we've came to that point where the club has an opportunity to progress, and you like I said, the summer transfer window, it did look like a decent transfer window if you've got the right coach in there. And Rafa's project was taken away from him basically because we wouldn't pay Rafa to stay on, but we're happy to go and spunk $6 million on Steve Bruce and his coaching staff, which makes it even more mental when you think about it.
Yeah, and that's the problem. That's where it all stems back from. It's like you go out and you buy, a race-winning thoroughbred horse, and then you've got Frankie Dettori sit there ready to ride it, and you get rid of Frankie and you stick me your bestie on it and hope for the best. You know what I mean? It's you're not gonna win.
That might be the funniest thing you've ever said on your Mark.
But
there's an image.
But it's where it just does massively stink of, and we've said it. We said it at the time. It stinks of that McLaren season, and we were hoping beyond all hope that we wouldn't go down that route. That we'd have lightning striking twice, but. And that's the problem. Is Ashley's biggest gamble is the one that will always cost us. He can put money in, he can buy players, but if you don't have the right person and the right team looking after them, doesn't matter who you've got on that pitch. If they don't know how to play it together, they don't know what they're doing when they walk out over that line, then you're on a hiding to nothing, and that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. Bessie, I'll come to you. What's your thoughts on it? Do you think I was going to ask you that question?
I think you could write it as well,
actually.
It's kind of exactly what Mark said, basically. Like, what Ashley has put a little bit of money into the playing squad this year, but that's been offset by having the world's worst head coach in charge at the same time. He did it, and Mark mentioned the McLaren season there. That McLaren season, pre-season, we signed with Mitrovic came in, Wijnaldum came in, there was a couple of. And Bemba came in. Ivan Toney was Tovan that summer as well.
Yeah, Tovan.
In fact, I remember looking at that summer thinking, we're going to go. I went to the pre-season game. It was against Vitesse, I think, that one. And it looked really good. And I thought, hang on, we're going to have a good season here. And the parallels with the summer just gone, where I remember the podcast we did where we'll give the players marks out of 10. That was Lewis, Fraser, Wilson, Hendrick. And I mean, I know Mark was upset. I mean, I gave Wilson 10 out of 10, but looking back at that, he was very cross. But looking back on that now, like,
would you give him a 10 out of 10 for his season at this point?
If he, I just to upset you. If he hadn't had the injuries, maybe he could have been a tenner. But
a tenner
singing,
a tenner.
But I think it's the thing where actually it's either a little bit of money in the playing staff or it's a competent manager, and it doesn't really give us any confidence. And I'm not going to be one of those people who says, "Oh, you can't sack Bruce because they'll just get someone else in who's shite as well." But that is the case. If Bruce goes, when Bruce goes, I'd have no faith whatsoever that they'll make a good decision. Look at the appointments they've made, like Pardew, Kinnear, and Joe Kinnear, by the way. Shearer to get the fans on side, Keegan to get the fans on side. The only reason Benitez came in was because he approached the club, because he'd been pied off by Real Madrid and recognised the potential that Newcastle have. So I've got no doubt that if Steve Bruce is sacked whilst we're recording this,
God, I hope so, bestie.
It'll be Mark Hughes in. Mark was on about it. It could be Eddie Howe or Mark. It'll be Mark Hughes, because if there's a decision to be made, they will make the wrong one every time.
Mark Hughes has been on TV the last couple of weekends, hawking himself out left, right, and centre for a job.
And you know what it is?
He's
horrific. Sorry, Bessie. I was
Hughes.
going to say what you're going to say. Yeah, I was going to say that. Like he's better, right? Like he's better. So like I know I don't want him, but
he's rubbish, but he's better than Bruce.
Yeah.
That's worrying, though, isn't it? That's worrying, because once again, after a handful of games, we're going to be in the same position as we were right now.
Well, Southampton weren't they? Southampton, they were going to go down. Mark Hughes came in, they had this rebound of success, and everything was rosy. And then all of a sudden, within maybe 3 months of the new season, shite, back to normal. And we all know that would be the same. But I think Bestie made a point right at the start, actually. In this, I actually had this thought, and I had a conversation with my dad the other day. Was okay, right? You stay up this season, right? Okay, you do. Let's see what skin in with teeth, but then we'll just go down next year anyway. Because like we will. Because I if we stay up the season, I can't see him getting pumped. I can't. So then we're just going to be back where we are anyway. So
one of the things which I mentioned to you in the WhatsApp group the other day is that we can't see Bruce walking, because for some reason, this is the only job in the world where when you get sacked, you get a massive payoff for not being good at your job, which is absolutely mental. But I think it was announced last week that it looks like we will be able to attend St. James's Park at least once this season. What's Bruce going to be thinking there? When Bruce heard that news, his arse must have twitched a little bit, like, because I wouldn't want to be going into St. James's Park as Steve Bruce. I'll tell you that now. And we mentioned and gone back to this on numerous occasions on this podcast that also what happened with Pardew, with Bruce. This is a lot of anger and a lot of tension built up over the last 12 months, which fans haven't been able to let off. Steve Bruce has been sitting there on his throne, giving fans all sort of not necessarily abuse, but little jibes when he gets a chance to do so. And fans haven't had a chance to retaliate and let their voices be heard, apart from doing things like this, which Steve Bruce went round and didn't technically call us keyboard warriors, but he went down that path. That would be our chance to get in the ground once again. And there's only going to be 10,000 over there. But I tell you what, those 10,000, it'll sound like there's 100,000 there. Mark's got his fingers crossed there, because he looks like he wants to be one of those in there.
God, I pray to God that some.
No.
You get good in there. That was unbelievable, that wasn't it? That was unbelievable. That.
Some 41.
Right, Mark,
pray to God.
Are you there? You pray to God
that I've got a chance of being there. I think that's what he's going to say.
I think so.
So we'll come back to Mark.
I don't think he'll give a fuck me. I don't think he'll give a fuck me.
No, I certainly don't. My thing is, and as much as I kind of, I mean, I said it the weekend, I want to go in and call him names. I still do want to do that. But, like, remember when, he's gone. Remember when, like, we had the walkout against Cardiff when we went into a game late, after 11 minutes, I forget which game that was now, a few years ago, Tottenham maybe. It felt like a massive thing. It felt like it was a huge, right, the whole stadium's going to go. And in the end, I remember that 11th minute thing, we got booed in. We got booed in. Because, like,
no, you're right.
A lot of the fans aren't on side with it. And I just think that with the 10-minute thing, like, it feels that because, like, on Twitter, when everyone's kind of talking about the same thing, generally speaking, we agree. And you see, whenever anyone's pro Bruce to get, like, whenever anyone's pro Bruce to get out, whenever. The abuse that they get, so even though it feels like the whole of the Northeast against Steve Bruce, and we cannot wait to get at him, you might find that there's only half of the 10,000, this theoretical 10,000 that actually would be. And in answer to Corby's thing earlier, I've got Darlow, Dummett, Lascelles, and Shelby. That's the four I'm thinking of. Dummett, Darlow, Lascelles, Shelby.
When a game.
4 players I got relegated last time that are still in the squad.
Oh, sorry, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
In the squad, isn't it? In the squad.
Yeah, in the squad. That's who didn't come until...
yeah.
I think that's who came in the championship, didn't he?
Well, I had Kieran Clark, Dummett, Lascelles.
Clark didn't come last time either.
Yeah.
No, it's players that were in the relegated team.
Sorry, apologise.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Hi, Mark. Right, so Mark, You had your fingers crossed.
I think.
What were you praying?
I think Steve Bruce unplugged me router.
How was your router? Did you say?
How was my router? Did you say? Aye. So from the second I walk into that ground till the second I leave, I will not stop giving him abuse. It would be my intention to make his life absolute hell for 90 minutes.
That's another human being, Mark.
You know what it is?
How do you think he's going to feel about that?
Less. He has lost any respect, any minuscule amount of respect I had for him is long gone. I could not give a monkeys. I want to make his life feel very uncomfortable.
I think a lot of pundits come out and say Newcastle have got to give Steve Bruce more respect than what they're giving them. Counter argument is that it works both ways. He has to respect the fans and the fans' opinions, because fans are always going to have an opinion. And it's not just Newcastle United. He's done this at every single club that he's been at. Taught to Sunderland fans, taught to Villa fans, taught to Birmingham fans. Go down the list. And he always turns around and blames everybody else apart from himself. When it's his team and it's his tactics and it's his coaching style, which gets teams in this position in the Premier League and even worse so in the Championship. So he's, like I said at the very start of this, he's not really going to be wanting fans going through those turnstiles.
Well, if you catch
I'm not sure I could fit through the turnstile these days. Like,
if you cast your mind back to the Villa days, they were throwing cabbages on the pitch and all sorts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was really bad for him at Villa. Like, obviously we don't really know because we weren't sort of part of it, of course. But
he ain't seen nothing yet.
I just feel like that 10,000 fans. Bestie's comment about Twitter being very. I mean, it is incredibly hostile and all the rest of it, but it's not really, sadly, it's not a true reflection at times, because I remember the thing about the 11 minutes, and I think the minute got wrong. It was the wrong minute people walked out on or stood up on at the wrong minute.
Yeah,
it wasn't the wrong minute. It got changed randomly.
Well, whatever happened.
It got changed, yeah.
And there's a few times I go to the game thinking this is going to be it, like Twitter's full of it, and then now it happens, and I'm like, I was wrong there. But Bruce, I do agree. Bruce obviously will definitely be saying to maybe Agnew and his wife, you know, oh Jesus, it's going to be a bit bad on Saturday. But I think he's seen a lot in his time, like a lot of shit and a lot of hassle from Hull fans, from Wednesday, well not Wednesday, but certainly from Sunderland fans, from Villa fans. That I think he's very arrogant. He's so arrogant, man, that I think he'll believe it won't be as bad or we're wrong. He's such an arrogant character. You can get that in his interviews, how arrant he is. And I just feel he'd be blinded by it. He hasn't.
He'd be interrupting fans before they've got any chance to say anything.
I mean, I agree with Mark. I mean, it'll be, you know, I mean, God, Matt, can you only imagine if there was 52,000 allowed there? Can you even imagine? You know what I mean?
But this could be probably one of the only times where you could probably see fans getting a chance to go into the ground, and they're not necessarily going there to watch the game. They're literally going there to show their dissatisfaction over the last 12 months.
So I got my hand up like at school. Sorry. But what I was going to say at the end of that was, I actually think outside of the ground where we're going to see it.
Yeah.
Because yes, there's only 10,000 can go, but you can have 500,000 outside. And I feel as if outside could be really, really heavy, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It definitely will be.
I agree with you. I do agree with you there.
The only thing that I worry about is that. Sorry, I was just going to say, Bestie, the only thing that I do worry about is if you're going into that game and you need to get a result, does that impact on how vocal everybody is? Because I'd want to go to absolutely give him pelters and make his life an absolute hell. But I've got to have in my mind that I don't want to adversely affect what's happening on the pitch. I don't think I can do as bad of a job as what Steve Bruce has managed to do over the course of the year, but it's tempering that need to get points versus giving him absolute dogs.
I don't think there's a realistic, if there's a 38 league season and we go in for one home game and give him abuse, he's got 37 other games where he could have kept them up. Fuck them.
No, that's a very fair comment. Yeah, and I think, hasn't this happened before, where the debate of not going back, and then people have said, "No, I'm going to support the team," and results never changed, regardless of that. And Christ, there's fucking nobody there at the minute, man, and results haven't changed. So does it really matter? Do you know what I mean?
There's nobody there at the minute, and the fans are still getting the blame for the form.
Yeah, well, that's very true.
Absolutely incredible.
That's
So this is something which I want to talk about, because I think we mentioned last week or the week before we had saw a shift in the likes of the media where they were coming to terms with Steve Bruce not being a very good manager. And it seems over the last week, because we picked up 2 points against two poor sides on the day, and we've picked up 2 points when we've been looking at getting as many points as possible. And it shifted once again, where we should all obviously get behind Steve Bruce, because he's going to come and take us out of this position. Steve Bruce put us in the position.
Joe Cole comments.
Joe Cole, yeah. So I put something on Twitter what Joe Cole said the other day, and he said that if Steve Bruce wasn't there right now, Newcastle would be looking to appoint Steve Bruce to come in to get them out of this situation. We're in this situation because of that manager that you want to bring in to get us out of it. It makes no sense whatsoever. And like Bestie's mentioned as well, that it was Peter Crouch who was blaming the fans for the current run of form. What have we done? Like, what have we done?
I've not been within eyesight of St James's Park for a year nearly now. The occasional afternoon up there, but I mean, Joe Cole might be right that maybe the club would be looking at Steve Bruce, but that's because the club get it wrong every time. There's not another Premier League team, and I've been saying this since July the 17th last year when he was appointed. There's not another Premier League club would be looking to appoint Steve Bruce in this day and age. It just wouldn't be. And he's done when he leaves Newcastle, for all these pundits who are saying, he's doing a really good job there. If Brendan Rodgers leaves Leicester, is Robbie Savage going to be saying, Bruce is the man? Or Swansea come up, and I don't know who's in charge of Swansea in it. Robbie Savage isn't going to be clamouring for Steve Bruce to get a job. He's doing such a good job at Newcastle. Gary Neville wouldn't have him at Man U. Peter Crouch wouldn't have him at Liverpool or Portsmouth or Villa.
Sutton wouldn't have him at Celtic. Like Sutton, you know what I mean? Like it's.
You're right. It's Newcastle fans should. It goes back to what Gary Neville said to us, Chris, when we were down in Manchester a couple of years ago. That's the level Newcastle fans are at, and they should be happy with it, basically. But Instagram is all like Clark says. It's a good thing to do.
Yeah, it's annoying, and I think, like, I will be honest here. I will be honest that I've seen Souness say some comments now, and I went on my timeline before, and all I'm saying is Souness, and I'm like, fuck off, like, just like don't bother with it, man. Like, we're not going to be able to change Graham Souness's opinion, so fucking don't give him any airtime. Do you know what I mean? Like, just leave it alone.
Savage and Chris Sutton on BBC 5 Live. That was a plant. I said that as soon as I heard it.
I've not watched that.
That's not a Newcastle fan. That's somebody who's came on pretending to be a Newcastle fan. I think he starts a phone call with Arid. Like, it's
an actor, 100%.
The accent changes about 4 or 5 times in a 3-minute video, and it's really weird. Says that basically says that Bruce has been playing attacking football, and if we hadn't had the injuries, then we would be a lot higher than where we are. And if we keep on playing this attacking football and we get out of this relegation scrap, then we'll be looking at European football next season. So he's put all the little keywords in there. It was
Sport,
5 Live.
5 Live.
5 Live was 5 Live.
If that wasn't an actor, that was somebody that hasn't watched us play, doesn't follow the games other than watching Match of the Day or watching
that had a bad
highlights or something like that.
It was probably a Sunderland fan or a Villa fan. Just had, no offense to Villa there, but I mean, just having a laugh.
It was a plant. You know what I mean? It was a plant to cause debate and anger. And I think a lot of fans called it out straight away. Social media was full saying, "Nah, that's not real."
And we've been here with Richard Keys, haven't we? We've been here many, many times with Richard Keys. Hairy hands having a go at with. And I just feel sometimes sometimes you just need to remove yourself. It's impossible to do because I understand people get very annoyed with it. But I just think if Janus says something or Joe Cole says something, we're just on it immediately. And I'm like, I get it. I do get it. But we aren't going to be able to change the narrative. I'm afraid we're just not. Like, so just don't give them any airtime. Every time I go on the search button on Twitter, it'll be that pundit's name is trending. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, what they said now. Because I know it's not going to be something good. You know what I mean?
It's the misrepresentation, though, isn't it? That's misrepresentation of the fan base that really gets to us, because there's not a fan out there that thinks Bruce is doing a good job. There's nobody out there that is happy with the position that we're in. There's nobody out there that thinks we we don't deserve to be in the position that we are. Yet the media spin it a completely other way. They give an opposite opinion to that because they don't have to sit and watch it week in, week out. They see highlights. They see their other mates that are in the media telling a story, giving a narrative, and they believe that. They don't listen to the fans. There's very, very few people within the media circles that actually understand the situation that we're in, and they are the ones that are rightfully listened to, but they don't get as much airtime as those that disagree because we're not going to argue with them, so it doesn't mean anything.
What I'll also say is a lot of the opinions are from the older generation, for want of a better word. Like, I'm going to throw this one out here. So Bobby Robson, we finished 5th, right? There was absolute hell on. There was hell on. And Janus was one of them players at that time. So, and listen, I'm not defending Janus. I'm just trying to explain what I'm meaning here. A lot of the people that are having a go or criticising were, I think, are looking at that 20 years ago of, yes, we finished 5th and we weren't happy. And people, I was there, honestly, Mark, I was there, you were there. There was people behind me. My dad knocked somebody out, man, because he was having Robson's life. Some guy behind me because we finished 5th. We missed out on Champions League. It's a fucking disgrace. He should be sacked. And I think Souness's, your Janus's, them people look at that time and that's what's wrong. I think that's what's more annoying than anything, personally.
Yeah, Dean Saunders is another one who, very similar to Souness. He was Souness's number 2. He was on the coaching staff, at least at the time. And he said it in the past, Newcastle fans demand success. And at the time, we were, by our standards, pretty successful. If, when Steve Bruce came into the job, there was no one who thought, right, that's it, we expect to finish in Europe now every year. I mean, but knew it wouldn't because he's shite. But even when Benitez came in, when we got promoted from the Championship in 2017, 16-17, I don't think, realistically, there's a single Newcastle fan who would have looked at that and gone, right, this is it, we're going to finish 9th, 10th. Like we did under Keegan that time. Football was totally different than he could do that back then. No one thought would do that. There's not a Newcastle fan. There probably is because there's like weirdos everywhere. But there's not, for the most part, Newcastle fans don't expect or don't consider that it's some sort of God-given right that we're going to finish in the top quarter, the top 5-6 of the Premier League. We know what we are. We know that we're in a relegation struggle this year. If we stay up this year, the likelihood is we'll be in a relegation struggle next year. It's where the club is at the minute, and it's where the club will be as long as Mike Ashley's in charge, basically. I mean, that's...
And the point is we want more than that. Do you know what I mean? And you mentioned about what Gary Neville said down at the thing there. Like saying, "Oh well, it's what you are." Mm-hmm. So hold on a second. You're owner of Salford. Salford weren't even a professional football club at that time. So can I just say to you, well, it's what you are. So just accept it. No.
Yeah.
You want better for your football club. Every single fan does. So what's the problem with it?
I've made this point time and time again. I agree completely, Tecker. I forget who it was. It was Mark Lawrenson. Newcastle want to win the Champions League. Aye.
Yeah.
Grimsby are bottom of League 2. They want to win the Champions League. It's not going to happen. But what's wrong with fans having aspirations, wanting to see their club progress and do a bit better, and a couple of promotions, a couple of cup runs? Look at Sunderland won the Papa John's Trophy yesterday, and they're delighted. Why not? If you're in a competition, go and win it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I agree with you totally on that one. Yeah. I do, honestly. I really do agree with that. And I think another thing for me, and I will shut up because I've had a drink, is, I say it every week, don't I? I'll shut up, I never do. Sorry. Is I also think when you look at the team, and I'll come back to what I said about an hour ago, is I think all of us collectively, everyone watching here tonight, probably believes this squad of players is better than fourth bottom.
Yeah.
It has to be better than fourth bottom. It's got to be. And if we had an absolute dross team, I would sit here now and go, do you know what it is, right? We're DNR being fourth bottom. And I would hold my hands up and say, I don't believe in what we've got. But honest to God, when I look at the team we have, I feel, all right, we've got injuries now. That doesn't move away the last 27 games we've had. Do you know what I mean? Like, I appreciate now might be difficult. And unfortunately for us, we'll find ourselves in this position when we've lost them 4 players or 3 players. But previous to this, we should be mid-table, 11th, 12th, maybe 10th. And then when these injuries do come around, it doesn't really matter. It's shit, but it doesn't really matter. And we'll find ourselves in a mess that we shouldn't be in.
Well, that core of players that we've got have proven that they can finish higher up the table because we've done it. We've done it until Steve Bruce arrived at their club. Fair enough. We diced with that last season and we finished, just below that mid-table point as well. So yet again, the players showed that they couldn't do it. we're in a position, as you just said, where we've then gone and strengthened. So that, in theory, should push you on. But we all knew what was going to happen. We called it from day one that Steve Bruce, when he comes in, he has a bit of an impact. He gets a team playing well, but he doesn't have the longevity to keep it going. And it's always that second season where things fall apart. History isn't a new thing. It repeats itself. It's repeated itself every club he's been at.
You're absolutely right there as well, because every single fan that ever watched was said, we're riding, we're looking games. You know, I'm only going to throw one at you, but the Everton game 2-2 away, I mean, we scored 2 goals in a second, man. Do you know what I mean? And the amount of games where we'd come away from a game and think, Jesus, how have we won that game? And you knew that's not sustainable. That style of play and the look that we were having is unsustainable. And of course, it's caught out.
Yeah, I want to start to wrap this one up because we've been going just over an hour now. So the podcast and the video tonight, it is titled "Accumulation of Points." So we'll go around. I'll end on this question before we do pack in tonight. Starting with you, Mark. Are we going to accumulate enough points to stay up?
I'm not sure about us accumulating enough points.
That's a question, man.
I'm hoping. I don't think we'll get that many more points. I think we might get maybe 4 or 5 points between now and the end of the season. I think we'll only accumulate enough points if those in and around us don't accumulate more.
What? You're speaking in riddles now.
So the only way I think we stay up is if people below us in and around us don't
accumulate
points.
I know, Mark, but that means we've accumulated enough points, right? That's it.
Up until this point, we might have accumulated enough points.
Just answer the question.
That's what I said.
I'm going to change. I'll change the question. Right. This is like, do you know when you're doing your homework and you like need to get the word count to a certain thing? Mark's just doing that, just going round. Right. So Mark, we'll reword it. Will we get enough points? Will we have enough points at the end of the season to stay up? Forget the other teams. Will we have enough?
Yes.
Okay. Decker.
Sadly, no.
Bestie.
It depends on how many points other teams get, really, I suppose. No, we'll go down, I think. I think we'll go down.
I think
your points, Chris?
I think we'll have enough points, but I think we'll get done on goal difference.
Oh, God.
So that's no as well, then. We'll not have enough points because by virtue of the fact that we'd need more points to stay.
No, we'll have enough points, just not enough many goals.
Well, that's not enough points then, is it?
No, it is. Because then would the other team have enough points?
Yeah, but if we're getting done on goal difference, then we need one more point.
That's not a point, it's the same points.
But it's too few still to stay up.
But yeah, I think we're destined to be relegated right now. You look at the other teams, and I know there was a little bit of a blip for Fulham against who was playing City, was it?
Oh, it's
Tottenham Newcastle, but they would expect it. It's not going to damage
right.
their run, really, is it? Confidence will still be high in that Fulham squad because we can feel their breath on our necks now. Steve Bruce said there's 6 or 7 teams looking over the shoulders. Decker, what's your question?
Do you know how we've got Fulham last game of the season? Do you think that game will be the decider, or do you think it'll already be done by that point?
Fulham be safe by them, I think.
I think it's done by then. If it might be that we need to beat Fulham to catch Brighton or Burnley, but I think by that point we'll be more than 4 points adrift, to be honest with you, if 17th. Or more than 3 points, or more than 2 points, but with bad goal difference, whatever it is that Chris was saying earlier. I didn't really understand it.
I'm just hoping, when I look at Brighton's fixtures, I think Brighton have got a very, very tough run in. So I'm just looking at them.
I think if you look at our fixtures, or you can look at there's a little run coming up for us where you look exactly the same and go, if we're looking at the last 2 games and not picking up a win, you don't look at that cluster of games which are coming up for us and say that we're picking anything up.
The last kind of winnable run we've had this season is the one that we're just finishing now. We've got Brighton, then we've got Spurs week after, then we've got someone else, then it's Liverpool. There's not like a run of 3 or 4 games where you go out and get like 6, 7, 9 points from there. That's they are the games that we've just played or finished playing this weekend. So it's a weird one. If you beat Brighton at the weekend, then you've got Brighton. You've got 6 points from 4 games.
That is huge, Bessie. I think that game at the weekend is huge. That
makes this run that we've had on paper not too bad.
Bearable.
If I can say that.
I would say.
That's a good point, actually, Bessie. You're right. Yeah.
Unbeaten and with 6 points from 4 games, you think, well, that's probably that's helpful. If you lose it, you've got 3 points from 4 games. You've dropped points against Brighton, against West Brom, against Wolves. You think, we're in trouble here.
Yeah,
it's that thing of when you have a run of draws, the result that ends it is massive.
Yeah.
Right. And that's on Saturday night, isn't it? And my next question is going to be, and we're watching it live, lads.
As always, so we've already got a thumbnail designed thanks to Jack, who recently joined the team. So Jack's already designed the thumbnail, and it looks like one again. As always, lads, we'll say this. And Mark summed it up perfectly last week and said he would rather sit through the pain alongside us. But what I do need to do is not let Mark celebrate a goal 40 seconds before anybody else sees it.
Yeah,
hit the back of the net. Jeez, I took all the emotion out of that one, Mark.
I enjoyed it when Mark said
I did apologise. It was the raw emotion and the pure relief of getting the goal that did it.
He froze really well there, didn't he? He did well though for a penny bit.
He done really well until he blinked.
He blinked.
He'd be great.
He did well.
Great at musical statues, wouldn't he?
My bum would give us away.
It's like we'll be here watching it, live streaming it, but like as we started at the very beginning of the podcast, and as you've just mentioned there, it is a massive game.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right.
Yeah. So we'll see everybody then. Thanks for watching us tonight.
There is just a couple of things. I'm glad we've managed to get this far, and nobody's mentioned the fact that Bestie's got 3 championship shirts hanging up behind him, or the equivalent.
Sorry, Daryl did
2 championships and 1 Division 1.
Oh yeah.
Daryl did put it in the chat earlier on, but I forgot to show it. Sorry, Daryl.
So that was it. And the other one is we've done a little bit of a deal with the devil that were mentioned a little while ago, and tomorrow there's going to be an exciting podcast comes out with me on a rival channel with one of our friends who is in the comments tonight over on YouTube, Mr. Corby, who people might know from Twitter.
There's no rivalry here, mate. We're all friends now. There's no rivalry here. So we're just collaborating.
So we've got a crossover podcast getting released tomorrow, looking back on some happier times. And we have mentioned a couple of times during the questions and answers tonight, talking about Bobby Robson, the legend that is. And me and Corbs take a little trip down memory lane, looking at the early 2000s, looking at 01-02, and then focusing on the 2002-2003 season, which is probably my favourite all-time season with that Champions League run that we had. So I thoroughly enjoyed recording it. It was brilliant. Obviously, I would say that because I'm in it, but I honestly do mean that it was fantastic just to talk about the. Is
that an audio podcast or is it a YouTube video?
Yeah, so it's going to be out on audio. So you'll be able to get that from all good audio places.
So Mark hasn't told me yet.
From our price.
So Mark, I think it's pretty wise if you do tell everybody it is True Faith who you have done this collab with. You haven't really mentioned them at all. So if you do search for True Faith on Twitter, they're all on Twitter. If you want to go on the likes of the podcast providers, so it'll be on iTunes, Spotify. That's where I normally listen to mine. So just give them a search on there, and you get to listen to Mark's lovely voice.
My question, Mark, is: do you raise enough points to make it a decent podcast?
Or does it depend how many points the other podcast
get? Depends how many points the other podcast gets.
How many points we make and NUFC Matters make and all that. Like it's all dependent on that.
Who?
Thank you. Thanks very much. If you do want to like the video, please do so. We're all going to be making an effort to release the majority of these videos as audio podcasts as well from now on for future upcoming things which are coming your way. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you on Saturday. The 4 of us will be there, hopefully, on Saturday. More stuff coming this week as well, so you will have extra time later in the week. Matty does have a podcast coming with a Brighton fan as well, just to get a rundown on what their playing style is like and how many goals they're going to score against us. And that's it. Thanks very much, and we'll see you in the relegation zone. Bye.
Hopefully with some good news.
Really?